What I found was the thing that stops most people from being successful and happy in their own lives is actually personal limitations. Welcome to the first episode of Campfire Talks, where we talk about success, happiness, and how we define it for ourselves. I've got some other videos actually on this channel right now that I'm going to leave up. Those are some really old videos, but they're going to stay right there just because that was where this all began in 2020, and it's come pretty far from there. For the last 3.5 years, I've been a coach and trainer for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's KBB program, which turned into Project Next, which turned into the High Ticket Academy, and then the Self-Education Revolution. And I've been helping entrepreneurs, I've been helping high achievers create businesses on their own. And what's interesting is when I was the VP and Director of Operations for a $100 million a year company, and I was developing training material, what I found was the thing that stops most people from being successful and happy in their own lives is actually personal limitations. But that all falls into a couple of categories. And the thing is that not one category is more important than the next. And as people are consuming information, we can build courses that teach people how to do that. But the reality is that people have specific concerns and specific things. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to take 5-10 minutes twice a week and talk about the things that are making people successful. We're going to go into detail on specific instances and scenarios that people can relate to. When I was young, when I was 15 or 16 years old, I was in a car accident, and that car accident happened, and I pulled up to a stoplight, and there was a car in front of me, and someone came up behind me and rear-ended me and slammed me into the back of the car in front of me, just accordioned my car. And I was kind of devastated. The cops got there. I was disoriented. This was back in the 90s, so I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't know how to get a hold of my parents. It was a pretty, amazing experience as far as the fact that I was okay. I can't even believe I was wearing my seatbelt because I wasn't the most attentive of kids. And the cop, I remember the conversation I had with the cop. The cop says, at least it wasn't your fault. And I was like, okay, that's good to know, because insurance is going to take care of it. 'Cause it's all about fault, right? Whoever's at fault is the one that has to pay the deductible for the insurance to take care of it. And so my parents ended up coming and get me. Car gets towed away, and I'm sitting down with dinner, and I remember repeating exactly those officers' words. At least it wasn't my fault. And that's not where my mom dropped it. And I still remember this conversation to this day vividly. She goes, okay, I can see how you think that. And I go, it's not see how I think it, it's the truth. It's not my fault because someone else rear-ended me. She's like, I understand that. But could you have looked up in your mirror and seen them coming up behind you? I said, well, I could have, but I shouldn't have to. She goes, I understand that you shouldn't have to, but that's not the question I asked. I asked, could you have? Sure. Could you have left room in front of you so you could have had your car and given space? Well, I could have, but I shouldn't have to. And again, she repeated it. I didn't ask you if you could have. I asked, or should have. I asked you, could you have? I remember getting so frustrated, and then she asked me the final question. Could you have moved out of the way so they would have missed you, had more room to stop, or even hit the person in front of them, which still would have been bad. But could you have done that? I remember throwing my fork down and goes, it doesn't matter, it's not my fault, and stormed out. I was 16 when that happened. And what's funny is I didn't actually learn the lesson that taught me until I was 35 years old. However, I never got rear-ended again in my entire life. And I drove a lot. And I had times where I would end up on the median or off on the curb or leaving lots of room in front of me because, we were slowing down the highway and I'm looking in my rearview mirror. I knew where the cars were stopped in front of me, so I was looking up, waiting for it. And I never thought twice about it. I didn't develop those skills. It was just something that I started to do over time because those words were pounded in my head from that conversation. And I proved my mom right. I was never rear-ended again because of all the things I could have done, I did do going forward. And what's interesting about all of that is that in life, there's a lot of things we could have done, and it's not about fault. I used to think it was about fault. I need to take fault. I need to take responsibility. That's actually not true. What you need to do is figure out how your actions influence the results you get. There are negative results, there are bad results, there are good situations, there are bad situations. how do your actions influence that going forward? There are situations that you can never give up. There's things that may have happened to you that you can't change, where the outcome is so detrimental that it does something to fundamentally change your life. At that point in time, it doesn't matter what actions you could have done to change it. It matters what actions you can take now to have the life that you want. It all comes back to the actions that we take. And when we look at that and we take a step back and we ask ourselves, what are the actions that I could do to get a better or different result? That's the fundamental of success, because it's about actions. Yes, it's knowledge, but we're talking about our actions. This system, this idea, is what makes you cognizant of success and happiness. It's what makes you realize that there are things that are going to happen to you that you can't stop, but you can choose what actions you make going forward. So that's the one thing that I want to leave to you on this first Campfire Talks, which we'll have a couple around this campfire because we're here for a couple of days. But the bottom line is, what actions are you going to take next time to get a different result? Or what actions are you going to take to start moving you in the direction? We're not talking about instant gratification. We're talking about what actions can you take to get a result that you're looking for. That way you don't have to live in a life you don't like, or you can live in a life that you design. So keep that in mind. What actions can you take to get a different result next time, or what actions can you take to get a better result? Answering that question is the first step in really being successful and happy in everything you do in life. We'll see you around the next campfire.